Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jinn Mythology. Today, we are going to do a few things. Today, we are going to watch a video about ancient spirituality in the Middle East that predates Islam, predates Judaism, well, predates Islam. Some of them are not going to predate Judaism. In the Middle East, and we are going to talk about the different types of polytheism that existed in the Middle East, all of which included mythology about the jinn. Jinn mythology predates all monotheistic religion, all of them, including Judaism, including Christianity, including Islam, including any of the different sects of monotheistic religion. The jinn predates all of it. Mythology of the jinn has been written down and recorded for, I'm pretty sure the newest research that comes out is about 5,000 or 6,000 years now. I have to look up the exact date, but we keep finding we keep finding more and more research that shows that mythology of the jinn has been recorded much, much longer than we previously thought. And they are some of the very first mythological beings to ever exist in written mythology in the entire world. And so we are going to learn about the different forms of polytheism that existed throughout the Middle East during this time, and we're going to learn about up to 3,000 years ago. Then we are also going to do a ritual, a summoning ritual where we summon the jinn, and a guided astral projection meditation. We are going to do some astral traveling, and also we are going to incorporate a spell into our astral travel and into our summoning ritual. So first of all, we are going to share screens. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
No.
No.
No. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let me try again.
You're host, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was the first one in here, so hopefully I'm not host. Oh, there it goes.
There we go. Okay, good. Cool. Okay. Now everybody can see the screen now.
I can.
Yeah?
Yes.
Does it say different types of jinn after Islam?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I tried to read that at first, then I remembered I can't read Arabic. I can read Lithuanian.
Yes, Arabic is very, very difficult to read. Even as somebody who has been studying the language of Arabic for a million years, I I still cannot read Arabic using the Arabic alphabet.
Speaking of jinn and like different types of jinn, and the jinn are all around us, there is this lion statue that every time I pass it, I feel like it's watching me. But only one of the two that are outside the house. And
Ooh,
you what I think you are.
Watch to see if it eats.
Cool.
Well, I mean, the only reason I brought it up is because I think it might, like because the last few classes I've been in Jinn mythology, we've talked about how they incorporate like into trees, into dirt, into they want to feel like what it's like to be a human, a dog, a statue. So, I don't know. I don't know if this lion statue is me projecting because I've been going to these classes, or if it's actually like something.
That is so cool. And I mean, I could see it. That would be perfect. That would be perfect for a Jinny to be hiding, either hiding inside of the statue or to actually be the statue. Because they can do both. They can hide inside of inanimate objects, which is where all of the really cool mythology comes from when you talk about like the genie in the lamp and the genie inside of the ring and the genie inside of all the different things that they have genies hiding inside of. They can also become the lamp or become the ring, and those are two very different things.
You said in your last class that they have to still eat and drink, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So Jinn have to eat and drink, and they have to do almost everything that humans have to do.
Yeah, so
So
just watch it. It'll be fine.
right. Just watch the statue.
Get a little camera.
Just stand outside this stranger's house and just all day at
Yeah.
their statue. Just,
It'll be fine.
excuse me, what are you doing? Watching your statue.
Watching the statue to see if it eats.
They'd call the cops and I'd get committed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably don't do that.
Yeah, don't actually.
So one thing that I would really, the reason that I have this slideshow up and that I think that it's really important is that this, I'm going to put it in the chat right now and link it to everybody. It is on the website as well, just so everybody knows. This is also accessible on the website in the study guide section, but I'm just going to post it here so everybody has it. And there are some very important articles in this slideshow. For people who haven't already watched me go through this slideshow like 17 times, please feel free to read through the slideshow. There's a lot of very important information as well as videos as well from one of my favorite creators who discusses and talks about pre-Islamic Arabia and just ancient Arabia in general. But at the bottom, you will see this article. And if you click the link, it will lead you to the article. The source is here, and it talks all about the jinn. And every single one of the articles that I give you, one thing that we talked about in one of our previous classes was the different perceptions of the jinn and how people talk about them depending on what culture they're from, what religion they're a part of, because the jinn are written into almost every single religion. They aren't necessarily in the Christian Bible itself, but if you read a lot of Christian text that discusses and talks about Jesus and about where Jesus was born and the culture surrounding where Jesus was born, because Jesus was born in Mesopotamia, which is the Middle East. A lot of the, I'm going to call it mythology, don't get offended, but a lot of the Christian mythology surrounding Jesus.
How could he be born in the Middle East? He's a white blonde man with blue eyes.
Right? I know, it's crazy, but weirdly enough, he was born in what we would consider today to be ancient Arabia, which makes him a Jewish Arab refugee. Quite interesting, seeing as how we treat Arab refugees in the United States. But anyway, in Jesus mythology, they talk a lot about the jinn as well. And of course, the jinn exist in the Quran, and the jinn also exist in the Torah. They also exist in many of the Jewish scripts and writings. The Jewish religions and Jewish culture have way more than the Torah. They have like hundreds of millions of books that they use as reference for different sects and different parts of their religion, depending on what kind of form of Judaism that you practice and where you're from. And a lot of those texts reference the jinn. And every single book that you read, every single culture that you hear it from, they will speak about the jinn in very different ways. And this article specifically, you will see a very intense bias. And that is one of the reasons why I encourage you to read the different articles that I have posted on the website and in these slideshows that I have. We don't necessarily read through them completely in class, but you can see the bias when you read through them. And I specifically posted articles that have different biases. Some of them you can tell are just giving you straight up factual information about the jinn and the references and information that is given about them in different religious texts, which this one is a little bit more just based on fact and has a little bit less religious bias in it, which I do appreciate. One of the other articles that I put in has a very, very, very strong Islamic bias, where obviously the jinn follow shaitan. And shaitan is the evil, quote unquote, jinn, even though shaitan is not evil at all. But shaitan, for those of you who did not hear the story, I told the entire story of shaitan in one of these classes. It's one of my favorite stories. But essentially, Allah, which is the monotheistic God in the Islamic religion, Allah declared that the jinn were Muslim and that they were created by Allah. And shaitan stood up and said, no, we existed long before you, Allah. We were not created by you, and we are not Muslim. We have many, many, many different religions, cultures, and societies within the entire species of jinn. And not all of us are Muslim, and not all of us are going to follow the Quran. And not all of us are going to follow the rules set by Allah. And Allah got very angry and labeled this jinn shaitan, which translates to different forms of the word Satan or devil or evil spirit, evil entity, and decided to cast him down and decide that everybody who follows shaitan will be considered evil and has disgraced Allah and has disgraced humanity itself. And so a lot of jinn went on to follow shaitan to basically claim their religious and cultural freedom. And it's a very cool story. And I love shaitan. And I think that's super cool. But of course, the Quran will not tell you that story in the same way that I just told you that story. And neither will a lot of religious texts. Obviously, they will paint shaitan in a much more evil light. When shaitan is drawn in pictures, shaitan has big giant horns. Sometimes shaitan is drawn red and looks very much like a very stereotypical little devil creature. Shaitan in the class that I have, like the picture that I use for this class on Facebook, that is a representation of shaitan with the black horns coming out of his head. And so all the images that they have post-Islam of shaitan are very demonic looking, whereas a lot of the jinn that were drawn before and pre-Islam are not drawn that way at all. They do not look like devils. They do not look like evil spirits. Just like humans, jinn are not evil, but they're not good. They are not all good. They are not all evil. They are just like humans. They come in all different forms. Some of them are mean and hateful. Some of them steal and do terrible things. And some of them are beautiful, wonderful, incredible beings. And some of them are somewhere in between. Some of them were evil yesterday, and today they decided that they weren't going to be evil anymore, just like humanity and just like humans. So I encourage you to read a lot of the articles, and all of the source material, and like the source for where the article comes from will be at the top of all the articles that I have posted in here. I also encourage you, if you're looking for more information about the jinn, to read 1001 Nights. It is incredible. And we did a reading of it in one of the classes as well. And it has hundreds of stories about the jinn. Oops. There we go. Okay. So I also encourage you to watch this video. We might have time for it today. I don't know. Sometimes I don't like showing too many videos in class. Number one, I always have to edit them out because when I post it on YouTube because of copyright issues. So I have to edit it out of the video, but also just because, you guys didn't come here to watch YouTube videos. So I do understand that, but they are very, very good videos. So one of the other articles, this article down here is amazing. I don't have it linked because I couldn't find it for free. So if you can find it for free, there is the name of the book and the author. I encourage you, if you are doing your own research about the jinn, to make sure that you are not just learning about the jinn from people who are from the United States, but to learn about the jinn and seek out authors that are from India, that are from Saudi Arabia, that are from Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria. And I encourage you to read those. So here I have some images so you can kind of see how Shaitan is drawn. You have in the very first picture all the way to the left, you have Shaitan kind of drawn with the horns and being much darker than everybody else. And we can also discuss colorism as well, but we're not going to get into that in this class right at this moment. But yes, Shaitan is always drawn much darker than everybody else in a lot of pictures, which we can draw our own conclusions from that. Also in the second picture, Shaitan is drawn once again with horns, being a lot bigger by scale than a lot of the other jinn, and so on. And that tends to be how the followers of Shaitan also have horns. And post Shaitan and the story of Shaitan, and post Islam and the Muslim religion and Muhammad coming to the Middle East, and spreading a lot of just spreading a lot of ideologies. I'm never going to say that anything that Muhammad said was bad. Just like saying that the things that Jesus said were not bad either. Just because I'm not a Christian, Jesus seems like a very nice dude. And Muhammad sounded like a nice dude too. It depends on kind of where you get your information from about these people. But yeah. But the way that it affected the pagan spiritualities and the pagan religions in those areas at the time was extremely negative for the pagans. It did not go well for the pagan people once the monotheistic colonizing religions were spread. And so on this slide we discuss how Islam created the satanic version of the jinn. It was also then they created the myth and that all jinn want to mislead you, that all of them are evil, that all of them that all of them are demons, that they're all followers of Shaitan, that they would break jinn up into categories where there were good jinn and bad jinn, and the good jinn were Muslim and the bad jinn were pagan. It also demonized women in the way that post-Islam, the jinn were said to shapeshift into beautiful women and lure men to their death. Now, I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm saying that in the Quran, it specifically says that most jinn are going to do that. So that if you ever see a beautiful woman, if you ever see a woman who you think is trying to seduce you, then it's obviously an evil jinn and you should probably hurt them. That's what I'm saying. And that's, not cool. And then of course,
do they consider sirens jinn?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. And then of course you have the myth that jinn were created by Allah. And in the Quran, it says that Allah created the jinn. But Now, I'm not here, once again, to debunk or to discuss or talk about how one religion is wrong and one religion is right. That is never my intention. But just to throw it out there as a fact, the jinn have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years before Islam. So to say that Allah created the jinn when the jinn were here first is just an interesting take, you know? So, yes, but also you can learn more about that in the classes that were posted on YouTube, where we really dive in and discuss what Islam did to the pagan belief in the jinn. So, first, I wanted to start, if you would like, and if anybody has any questions or would like to discuss or talk about jinn and how Islam affected the mythology of the jinn, the culture of the jinn, the pagan spiritualities and spells and belief systems surrounding the jinn, we can totally, now is the time to ask questions about that before we jump into our very short video about the religions that existed in ancient Arabia before Islam.
So maybe I'm asking a wrong class. If the jinn are so evil, why would Allah or whoever name I already forgot because I'm bad with names.
Oh, that's okay.
Why would he create them to lead his followers astray?
That's a fantastic question. So basically the reason behind it is very, very similar to the Christ. So if you know anything about Christianity and kind of
free agency.
Yeah, exactly. So God created humans, and a lot of humans are evil. That's because God gave them free will. Allah created the jinn and gave them free will, and they became evil.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
But that still always confused me too, though, because I have so many questions about that. Because, like, doesn't God know everything and know where my life is going and know exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it? And he knows all. And if he knows all, then he knew I would be evil, meaning that there really wasn't he created me to be evil, because he knew from my birth and from my creation that I was going to be evil. But I also don't understand Christianity. So, that's just me.
I don't understand the need for Christians to, what's the word I'm looking for? To try and missionary me. Like,
What?
if, that's, they send missionaries on your door to,
Okay.
Jesus is the best person ever. Why are you pagan?
Convert you.
Yes. I had some of them stopped knocking on my door when I forgot I was wearing Thor's hammer on my shirt. It was for another group that I was in that did pagan stuff. It also had the LGBT flag on it. They quit knocking on my door after that.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm just somebody, and it really isn't. I have to make sure that I reiterate this to people. My misunderstanding of monotheistic religions comes from the fact that I did not receive religious trauma as a child. I was never, ever, ever, religion was never pushed on me. I never even learned what Christianity was. I did not learn who God was. I did not learn absolutely anything about monotheistic religions such as Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, or Islam as a child at all. Nothing. I grew up without any of it. So when I discuss the fact that Christianity confuses me, it does not come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of genuinely being confused, because I didn't grow up. I've never been to church. I don't know. I don't fully understand. I've read the Bible. It confused me more Um, so I'm just confused. I just don't really understand. But I understand pagan spiritualities. That doesn't mean that I think that all pagan spiritualities are factual. It just means that I understand them more. But I do think that obviously the religious colonization was something that is really sad and really terrible. And I do discuss that a lot in my classes, that even though I would never hate somebody because they are Christian, I do highly dislike what what Christianity as a whole did to indigenous communities throughout the US and throughout every single country in the entire world. And I think that that's really sad and that's really terrible. But Christians today, they didn't do that. So I totally get that. But they do still follow a religion that did do that. So, but anyway. Does anybody have any more questions about Islam and its influence on the culture of the Jinn? Oh, hi, Michelle. Welcome. I was checking the chat real quick to see if anybody put anything in the chat.
Hello. Thank you.
Yes. And yes, Jesus mythology. Yes. You'll hear me call it that a lot. That's what it is. It's Christian mythology. They have mythology too. Their mythology is about this guy named Jesus.
Hello, Alex. Thank you.
Of course. Hi.
I don't understand. Sorry, you go.
Sorry. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, don't be sorry. Not at all. We are discussing pre-Islamic Arabia and how Islam affected the mythology of the Jinn and the culture surrounding the Jinn and the spiritual practices within Jinn spirituality and practice, and how Islam affected the way that pagans in ancient Arabia practiced with the Jinn and thought about the Jinn, and how it affected the mythology as a whole, because the mythology has been completely changed now.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the first few classes, and then I tried to catch the one on YouTube, but me and my family's been sick. So I'm starting to feel a little better, but hopefully David can go back to his day program.
I'm glad you're starting to feel better. I'm so sorry you were sick.
Thank you. It's good to see you back.
Aw, it's good to see you too.
Thanks.
I'm not quite sure why Christians don't like the word mythology so much when about Christianity.
Because they've tied it to myth, which roots fake. So they're like, my religion's not fake. Yours is, you devil worshiper. How dare you offer wine to somebody who's half skeleton, half flesh? I just eat and drink the blood and skin of my religion.
Yes, I have made a lot of Christians mad that way by calling it mythology, and I find it really funny because then I ask them, I say, okay, well, what would you call what I practice? If I was to talk to you about Zeus and Odin, and I was to talk to you about Persephone, and what would you call that? And they were like, well, Celtic and Greek mythology and Norse mythology. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And yours is Christian mythology, okay? But they don't understand that. They don't get that. So Yes.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Because theirs is real. That's why. And then they think that mythology means not real.
I don't think that's what it means.
It doesn't. It does, like Robin was right. The roots of the word myth are fuzzy. And some of the definitions of the roots of the word myth do correlate kind of with the word fake and with legends and with folklore and things like that. And they think that that means that it's in this realm of being possibly untrue. And how dare you say that Christianity could be possibly untrue? And I think that's where it stems from.
It could all be possibly untrue.
Exactly. None of us know.
And then a lot of them get their knowledge from like cartoons, like Marvel. Marvel's more Marvel. I wouldn't call Marvel a cartoon, but they're like, well, this is what I know about it too. So it's like, okay, one, that's not correct. Stan Lee did not do his research.
Yeah, no. Stan Lee did not do his research at all. And also though, I think that because I know a lot of pagans have issues with that. And I only have issues with what Disney attempted to do. Because Disney attempted to patent Odin and attempted to patent
Loki too, and Thor.
And Thor and Loki. They tried to. You can't patent God. that's not. You can't really do that. That's not chill. That's like somebody's religion. You cannot patent that. But I also don't like the fact that people got so angry about just adding those characters into movies and kind of creating your own mythology around it, because Stan Lee never ever said once, this is traditional ancient Norse practice, that this is real Norse. He never said that those words never came out of his mouth. He just said that he really liked the character Thor and wanted to put him in his movies. And I think, in a lot of movies like Bruce Almighty and shit, we put God in there. And sometimes God is, oh my God, what's that amazing actor's name that plays God in Bruce Almighty? Oh my God, Morgan Freeman. They put Morgan Freeman as God. And, I feel like you should be able to mess around with characters from mythology as long as you don't pretend that you are actually discussing real, you're not trying to culturally appropriate other people's religion. You're not trying to culturally appropriate people's actual spiritualities and their actual gods and goddesses and their real practices. As long as you put a disclaimer in that this is just, your interpretation of a book that you read, then, that's okay.
Several
mythology
TV shows.
fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly. It's mythology fan fiction. Exactly.
Several TV shows and movies make God a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Which is super cool. So, yeah, I think that it's okay that Stan Lee put them in. I just don't think it's okay that Disney tried to patent them. And I also get a little annoyed when people think that Infinity War or any of those, I guess they really weren't in Infinity War. Anyway, but when they try to say that Marvel movies are a direct depiction of Norse mythology, which is kind of annoying, but So, okay, are there
when we look at a religion and its development.
Pause. First of all, can everybody, sometimes YouTube is weird. Can everybody see the video?
Yes, I can hear it too.
Perfect. Good. Okay. So before we start, it is 22 minutes. Oh, wow. Okay. It's okay. Before we start the video, does anybody have, first of all, was anybody here in this class where I showed this video before? It would have been a couple years ago. Or maybe like a year ago.
I wasn't.
Cool. I don't think anybody here was. I don't think anybody here was in this class a year ago when I first started. This video I showed in one of the very, very first classes I ever did for Jinn mythology. because I wanted people to understand. A lot of people understand Celtic paganism. A lot of people understand Greek paganism and Italian paganism, a lot of Eurocentric paganism. A lot of people know the story of Persephone. They know the story of Zeus. They know the story of Hercules, you know, because we've Hollywoodized it and we've put it into our culture. But a lot of people don't know anything about Middle Eastern paganism, anything at all. When I tell people I practice Middle Eastern paganism, they're like, what is that? And I thought paganism only existed in Europe. No, it existed all over the world. And so I really like, before we start summoning Jinn and discussing and talking about these ancient religions, I want people to have an understanding of them. And this guy does a really good job of just doing a very fast introduction to pre-Islamic Arabia and the different cultures and religions that existed in when the Middle East was pagan. And like I said, also Judaism as well is going to be referenced and mentioned in these videos too. Because Judaism and Christianity both existed in the Middle East long before Islam. Islam is a newer religion in comparison. In comparison to Judaism, it is a newer religion. All right, so if there are no more questions, we are going to get started with the video. Please relax and get comfy. And we are going to do this for 22 minutes. And then we are going to jump right into our ritual. So please don't leave because the ritual is going to be really fun, I promise. And this video is super interesting, I swear.
From a historical and scholarly perspective, rather than through a theological or apologetic lens, one of the most important aspects to keep in mind is the historical context in which the religion...
Can you guys hear it?
Yes, it's a little,
Is it like really low volume?
not for me.
No?
No, I can hear it.
Okay, cool.
And
The video
River,
is, what?
River, yes, Hell is Loki's daughter.
Yeah, the video is just like a little jumpy, but that's it. I can hear it fine.
Okay, cool. I don't know why it was on such low volume for me, but that's fine. Oops, no, don't click there. Okay.
Emerges. This is of course also true for the religion of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, on whom the Islamic religion is based, basically, lived and preached in Western Arabia in the 7th century. So what was the historical, social, religious and intellectual context and environment that led to this massive event? Or in more general terms, what was the religious landscape like in pre-Islamic Arabia? The classic or common narrative is pretty straightforward and simple. The Arabs were polytheistic pagans who worshipped many different gods before the arrival of Islam, after which everyone basically became monotheistic Muslims. The main source or sources that had been used both historically and mostly today also in describing pre-Islamic Arabia has actually been, on the one part, the Sira literature or the biography literature of the Prophet Muhammad, written by Muslim authors a few centuries after his life. Furthermore, perhaps the most important source that we have is the text called Kitab al-Asnam, or the Book of Idols, written by Hisham ibn al-Kalbi in the 9th century. For obvious reasons, these sources are very problematic in several ways. They were, of course, written with a specific purpose in mind, to legitimize the Islamic monotheistic tradition as triumphant over the backwardness of the pre-Islamic Arabs. In the words of the scholar Ahmad al-Jalad, quote, "Paganism was an established trope used to bring into sharp relief the distinction between Islamic practice and what came before." It goes without saying that these accounts are biased and polemical in nature, and that the people that are actually talked about...
In just the last 7 days, 8,368 men have clicked the link on one of our ads that you've probably seen on the internet.
The people who actually practiced the polytheistic religions of pre-Islamic Arabia get to have no say in telling the story about their own religious tradition. But that isn't to say that everything that Ibn al-Kalbi or the Sira biographers write is inaccurate. Far from it, actually. A lot of the information that a person like Ibn al-Kalbi gives us is actually often confirmed by the archaeological evidence, and it's still a very good source to use. But to get a picture that is more balanced, nuanced, and historically accurate, we need to look elsewhere. Luckily for us, the last few years has seen an absolute explosion of activity when it comes to scholarship on ancient Arabia. Archaeological excavations and expeditions are continuously conducted in northern Arabia and other places, as well as by amateur archaeologists across the Arabian Peninsula that are turning up some absolutely revolutionary findings. For example, many rock inscriptions from the ancient Arabs give us first-hand accounts of the culture and tradition and religion of this sort of lost culture. And once we start to look at the new scholarly and archaeological findings, a picture emerges that is a lot more complicated than the simple classical narrative that I presented at the beginning. So with the latest scholarly research in mind, let's take a look at the fascinating world of religion in pre-Islamic Arabia. Late antiquity was a very vibrant period, and Arabia was not isolated from the major historical events and happenings of the time. Indeed, scholars realize more and more just how much Arabia and the Arabs participated in the wider culture of the Middle East, being a major part of trade routes and often being vassals to great empires. Now, talking about pre-Islamic Arabia gives us pretty enormous spans of time in which things could, of course, differ and change a lot, but we're going to focus mainly on the period very shortly before the Prophet Muhammad, on the eve of Islam, as it is sometimes called. The Middle East at this time was dominated by two major empires, the Byzantine or Eastern Roman Empire and the Sasanian Persian Empire, Arabia being basically sandwiched in between the two. The Byzantine Empire at this time were Christians, and the Sasanian Persians generally followed the Zoroastrian religion. An important aspect to remember is that the Arabs, quote-unquote, were not a unified and homogeneous group of people at this time. Arabia consisted of a number of different tribes and clans whose affiliations and traditions could differ. For example, at this time were the Lakhmids of northeastern Arabia, who allied themselves with the Sasanian Empire and were primarily polytheistic. On the other hand, there were the Ghazanids of northwestern Arabia, who functioned as a client state to the Byzantine Empire and who were mostly Christians. So already we can see a diversity here, and things get even more complicated. In general, looking at the various archaeological evidence that we have, like rock inscriptions for example, we can conclude that most of the inhabitants of the Arabian Peninsula historically did follow a kind of polytheism or paganism. The details of this religious tradition is quite obscure and unknown, but we do know a few things. The ancient Arabs worshipped a number of different deities and gods. Some of these gods were associated with a specific place or with a specific tribe and so on. There were also sanctuaries for different deities located all around Arabia, which worshippers could visit. Many of these deities also seem to have representations of natural phenomena or abstract concepts. One example is the god Shams, which literally means sun. The historian Robert J. Hoyland writes, quote, "Loosely, of course, the gods represented those forces that were important to the lives of their devotees but beyond their control: rain, fertility, health, love, death, and so on. By seeking the favor of the gods, typically making some votive gift, one might thereby influence these forces." We also have many other famous deities, including Alat, a goddess of fertility, probably similar to and possibly even linked with Aphrodite of the Greek pantheon and the Ishtar of Mesopotamian mythology. Alat is one of the deities that are mentioned the most in all of the rock carvings that have been found and clearly played a major role for the ancient Arabs. She's also one of the 3 goddesses that are actually mentioned in the Quran itself, alongside Manat and Al-Uzza, although recent scholarship suggests that the latter may have been identical to Alat and simply been a kind of title for this goddess. Another central deity appears to have been Rudau, associated with the moon and sometimes considered the father of Alat. Rudau was a powerful god who was particularly associated with the region of Chaldea in southern Mesopotamia. We also have Baal Samim, or simply Baal, a deity of rain and storm whose name we recognize from the Canaanite religion as depicted in the Bible. In any case, these are just a few examples of the many different gods that the Arabs would worship. As Hoyland suggested, these gods could be invoked for many different reasons, most commonly probably mundane things like good health or to help with various troubles in life. Take for example rock inscriptions such as these. Quote, "O Rudau, help Aib with that which he desires." Or, "O Alat, daughter of Rudau, deliver so-and-so from the year of war." Indeed, most of the rock carvings from ancient Arabia contains prayers like this, prayers asking the gods for protection or security from their enemies or from other misfortunes. As I said earlier, certain gods could be associated with a specific tribe and act as the protector of that tribe, while other gods would be more universal and worshipped across a wider population, including gods like Alat and Rudau that I have mentioned. But we also find, of course, regional preferences, since the tribes and the various groups of Arabia differed on a number of accounts. So we find certain gods that are specifically popular in southern Arabia, while other gods are more popular in northern Arabia, and so on. It was a diverse religious context or environment. We should also keep in mind not only that Arabia is a large place that contains many different groups that differed on a number of accounts, but also that the population of Arabia could live different lives. So some people, some Arabs were nomads who moved around, lived in desert environments and so on, while others lived in developed city environments. And these different circumstances also, of course, affected the religious traditions and religious practices that the Arabs would partake in. Now, aside from these prayers, the deities were worshipped through various different rites. The worshippers or servants, called abd in Arabic, could make offerings to the gods, probably things such as food and so on, like in many other polytheistic traditions. Like in so many other cultures of antiquity, animal sacrifice appears to have played a major role in their religious rites. Animals, often camels, would be sacrificed before major events or to aid in the effectiveness of certain prayers, for example. As we saw earlier, there were also shrines dedicated to specific deities located in locations all around Arabia, and this is connected to another one of the most central and important rituals or rites or practices of the pre-Islamic Arabs, which was the pilgrimage. Pilgrimages, referred to as Hajj, just like in the Islamic equivalent, would be undertaken to a shrine at a specific time during the yearly calendar, like an annual festival or celebration. These shrines or special places were referred to as haram, or sanctuaries, where all forms of violence were forbidden. Presumably, one of these common shrines that were visited by pilgrims was the Kaaba in Mecca, something that the Islamic tradition itself affirms. The classic narrative is that the Kaaba in Mecca, thought by Muslims to have been built by Abraham himself, served as an important site of pilgrimage for people across Arabia, and that it housed the images of many different gods in the broader pantheon, before of course being liberated and once again dedicated to the one monotheistic God by Muhammad and the arrival of Islam. And our information about the general practices of pilgrimage in pre-Islamic times seems to corroborate this story. Other connections or similarities to the later Islamic tradition can be found in the rules relating to ritual purity. So before going on a pilgrimage or praying to a god, or really before any kind of religious rite, the worshipper was expected to make ablutions and to purify himself and wash himself to enter a state of ritual purity. In general, we find that the religion of ancient Arabia is one that is in some ways familiar to an antique Middle Eastern context.
A A case like this will ruin your iPhone 16, and here's why. Apple's iPhone...
There are other beliefs and practices that we don't have too much information about. For example, and as we have explored in a previous episode, the Arabs believed in other mysterious beings such as the Jinn, ghost-like figures who would hang around abandoned ruins and dark places. We also know of various occult practices such as divination and techniques involving the evil eye. Poetry played a major role in the lives of the ancient Arabs, and poets were sometimes considered to be inspired by the divine beings to recite their verses, becoming almost like messengers for the gods. But even in less extravagant circumstances, poetry served an important function of storytelling and a literary form that held the highest of esteem in this culture. The most famous collection of pre-Islamic poetry, the Mu'allaqat, or hanging poems, is another important source for the culture and traditions of the Arabs at this time, as well as being some of the greatest literary achievements in the Arabic language. But so far I've only talked about polytheism, with gods like Allat and Ruda and so on, but as it turns out, the religious landscape of ancient Arabia was a lot more complicated than that, and there were a lot of different religious traditions and movements that actually coexisted on this peninsula, especially in the last few centuries before the arrival of Islam. And this includes, as we will see, various forms of monotheism. Indeed, as we saw in the beginning, Arabia was very much involved in the wider political and social context of the Middle East at the time, including the cultures of the two great empires. By the 4th to 5th century, there existed many different religious groups on the Arabian Peninsula, including many Jewish tribes as well as Christians of various different denominations. Indeed, the Ghazanids, who were often vassals to the Byzantine Empire, followed a Monophysite Christianity, and it is quite likely that there lived Christian groups further inside the peninsula as well, even if they weren't as numerous as the Jews. To a lesser degree, but still significant, there were also Zoroastrians living in Arabia at the time, so we get the picture of a quite diverse and complex religious milieu. So monotheism was actually quite common in Arabia at this time. But of course this could differ from region to region and from different cities. For example, it seems that the city of Mecca was largely polytheistic, while the city of Yathrib, which later became known as Medina, housed a large amount of Jewish monotheistic communities. And the presence of monotheism in Arabia can also be seen very clearly in a lot of the archaeological evidence that we have. There even seems to have been monotheistic communities in Arabia that were neither Jewish nor Christian, but who considered themselves as belonging to a primeval, original monotheism of Abraham. In the Islamic tradition, this independent monotheistic community or group is known as the Hanifiya, although there is less evidence for them in the archaeological record. Now, looked at from a historical perspective and putting aside theological perspectives or narratives, we can see where some of these central aspects of the later Islamic religion comes from, including the name Allah for God, as well as other names. The primary name of God in Islam is Allah. The precise etymological origins of the name has been debated, but the majority of scholars, I would say even Muslims and non-Muslims, agree that it is probably an abbreviated form of Al-Ilah, meaning literally the God. Ilah being the Arabic word for God or divinity, and Al being the definite article. And the archaeological record actually supports this. We have inscriptions by North Arabian Christians in pre-Islamic times that refer to their god precisely as Al-Ilah. And similarly, in southern Arabia, what is today Yemen, there appears to have been a period of monotheistic flourishing, either through the influence of Judaism and its adoption by the state, or through some independent form of monotheism. And in this South Arabian context, the monotheistic god was referred to as Rahmanan. Now, in the South Arabian dialect, the definite article was not the prefix al, as in the northern equivalent or in classical Arabic, but rather the suffix an. So, if we transpose the name Rahmanan to classical Arabic, this name for God becomes Ar-Rahman, another one of the most primary names of God in Islam. And moreover, in this South Arabian context, God was also, very tellingly, called Ilahan, or through transposing al-ilah. The abbreviated form Allah appears to have been the result of a certain Arabic dialect in western or northwestern Arabia, including perhaps the Hijaz. But we do find examples of this abbreviated form Allah in earlier evidence as well. In the Nabatean kingdom of northern Arabia, we find examples of the name Allah, both as parts of personal names like Abdullah, and indeed Abdullah was, according to tradition, the name of the Prophet Muhammad's own father. But we also see the name Allah used independently in various prayers and rock carvings in the Nabatean script, even though it is quite rare. There is this inscription, for example, which states, quote, وَأَسْلَيَا وَأَقْسَمَ بِاللَّهِ حَيْلَ حَدَيَا عَزِيمًا, which translates to, he made a burnt offering and swore by Allah who is living that he shall command with greatness. But the name Allah is also sometimes invoked alongside other deities. Quote, and he placed it under the protection of Kahil, Allah, and Attar of the east from strong and weak and purchase and pledge for all time. So what does this mean? Well, in the Islamic tradition, there is often the idea that the pre-Islamic Arabs did worship Allah, but that they did so alongside other lesser deities, and that this is the origins of the concept of shirk, or of associating partners with God, which is the greatest sin in the Islamic religion. Many scholars today even argue that the group referred to as the mushrikun in the Quran, usually translated as the polytheists, might actually be referring to other monotheistic groups that nonetheless did not follow a monotheism that was as strict as that of the Prophet Muhammad. In any case, what the archaeological evidence shows is that the name Allah did exist as a name for God in ancient times. Some scholars, including Al-Jalad, argue that the use of the word Allah in the polytheistic context may have simply referred to the most exalted God in a particular context. In any case, it seems clear, however, that the name derives from the title Al-Ilah, or the God, so commonly invoked by Christian inscriptions and in southern Arabia as well. Many features that would later become so important for the religion of Islam do appear in pre-Islamic Arabia, both in polytheistic and monotheistic contexts. We have maybe even found an example of the Bismillah in a pre-Islamic inscription. In 2018, an inscription was found in the Adali region of Yemen, which seems to either say, taken transposing from South Arabian dialect into account, quote, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim Rabb as-Samwat, which would translate as, in the name of God, the merciful and compassionate Lord of the heavens. With the exception of the last part, Lord of the heavens, this is the formula that starts every Quranic chapter or surah except for one, and is a major aspect of the Islamic religion. However, this is actually quite uncertain. The inscription may in fact instead say, quote, Bismillah ar-Rahman irhamma Rabb as-Samwat, which would instead translate to, in the name of God, the merciful, have mercy upon us, Lord of the heavens. And this would clearly echo the words of the Bible. In any case, we are clearly dealing with a monotheistic invocation here, one that makes sense in the context of southern Arabia at the time, which had a strong flourishing of monotheism. Remember, the name of God, Rahmanan or Ar-Rahman, being used commonly in the region at this time and reappearing in this particular invocation, as well as being under Christian rule at the time of the inscription's composition. So the inscription makes sense in a lot of ways.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting.
We can see that Arabia by the time of the Prophet Muhammad was a melting pot of various different religious and intellectual traditions. While the polytheism or paganism was probably the religion practiced by the majority of the population, there were still very strong monotheistic communities, including Jewish groups, Christians, as well as maybe even independent monotheistic groups like the Hanifiya that's talked about in the Islamic tradition. Clearly then, things aren't as simple as the narrative that I presented at the beginning, and we can perhaps begin to understand the context in which a prophet by the name of Muhammad would appear on the scene and change world history. I hope you enjoyed this dive into ancient Arabia and its religious traditions.
Okay, so hello.
You skipped all the ads. How am I supposed to know that that phone case is going to break my iPhone?
I know. Did you like how the very first ad was for Pornhub? I
It,
was like, oh, awesome. Lovely.
it looked like it was just using Pornhub. I'm not sure it was for Pornhub.
Was it? Was he just using Pornhub? I didn't even look.
I-
I just saw Pornhub and I was like, oh, cool.
I
Great.
think so.
I think it was supposed to be an ad to like break addiction or something like that. But
I'm
it
not
was
sure you can
Oh.
actually have an ad for Pornhub on YouTube.
So they were talking about how to stop watching porn.
I believe
Awesome.
so. I think that's why they blocked out the word.
The word porn.
It would be very bad advertising if it was for Pornhub to block out the entire name.
True facts. This is very true.
I saw it and I was like, oh, what a quite targeting ad. What are we learning about our dear professor?
Awesome.
The funny part is, since you're cutting the video out, nobody will have any idea what we're talking about.
I know. No, that's the funny part when I cut out the videos is that nobody actually knows what we're talking about, but that's okay. People who came to, I'm gonna like preface it and say, you know, there's a video here, but we cut it out due to copyright issues, which we really shouldn't have to, as long as it's for education. Like I read all the rules of YouTube, and as long as it's for education and you cite the video and put the creator's name and put the link to the video in the description, you should be fine. But I did that once and we got flagged and got in trouble, so I just don't do it anymore.
That's
That is
incorrect.
fair.
You don't. If you watch those reactors, they never credit the video. They never
Right?
credit the source, and they don't even do the law, which is add insightful. I can't remember the word. It's like add insightful commentary to enhance the. There's a specific terminology law thing. They just sit there and they go next video.
Yeah. So I don't know why we got in so much trouble. Dr. Jackson Crawford hates us, which is really funny because I love him and I got really sad that he hates us, but it's okay.
I'm not sure that the person actually has to be the one to copyright claim you. Do that?
Well, it was a very specific copyright thing where, you know, I don't know if any of you guys have put videos on YouTube before, but you can go down and do this thing where you can scan YouTube to see if anybody else is like using your videos for content or like copywriting your videos or something. And he did that and then sent us a personal message saying that we needed to take the video down. But I didn't see it in time because, as you guys know, I don't check my messages. And so he just ended up flagging us, and then YouTube got angry at us, and then I had to take these classes that taught me how to not copyright.
YouTube made you take the classes?
Yeah, YouTube made me take classes. It was yeah, it sucked. And so I got scared and I never did that again.
You're joking, right?
No.
No, it was really funny too. And like what made me kind of sad about it too is that not only did I give him credit in the entire description, put the link to his video, but also in the video I made, I sat there praising Dr. Jackson Crawford. I'd taken his classes at CU. He teaches at CU in Colorado. He's a great professor. I took his classes. I praised him. I talked about how I love the way that he wrote the Poetic Edda, which is like one of the greatest, like he translated, sorry, he did not write that book. That book was written by Norse people a million years ago, but he translated the Poetic Edda, which is amazing. And he's brilliant. And I'd spent the whole video talking about his brilliance. And then he flagged me for it, got angry and accused us of copyright.
I assumed he didn't actually watch it.
Yeah, I don't think he actually watched it. He just saw that we used his video. I was like, that's really sad. I was very upset.
I'm sure you were.
I
I'm
remember
sorry
that
if you hear
time.
noise. I am making dinner.
Oh, that's okay. But yeah, I bet you do remember, Robin. Yeah, I had a whole admin meeting about it. I was like, guys, we're in trouble. So,
Wow.
but anyway, so the video that we just watched is such a great video. I love the way that he describes pre-Islamic Arabia. He definitely sticks to the time period very close to Muhammad. So you definitely see not only paganism and polytheistic gods and goddesses, but you also see the Christianity and Judaism that existed in Arabia during that time. And I really love how he discusses and talks about Zoroastrianism, which, if you have been in any of my tarot classes, or even the classes that are about dice reading, or the classes about Egyptian tarot, I talk about Zoroastrianism all the time. And I love the Zoroastrian religion. I think it's very, very cool and very interesting. If you've never looked into it, you totally should. And he discussed it and talked about it in the video. And a lot of people, especially in Iran, still practice Zoroastrianism. It's still a huge part of their culture and traditions and religious practices. And it's a very, very, very interesting. Even Shentat has talked about being like Zoroastrian and talking about Zoroastrianism. So it's very cool. They're credited. So a lot of people who practice Celtic paganism, especially people who are very, very interested in like Celtic and Greek paganism, I'm sure that you have learned about the elements. And if you've been to any of my classes, we sit and we talk about earth, air, fire, and water consistently and constantly. If you have been part of the Wiccan community, you talk about earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And a lot of the neo-paganism that exists in the United States talks about earth, air, fire, and water and their symbology, especially in things like divination practices like tarot and palm reading and so on. And that actually, it's a misconception that that started in Celtic mythology and in Greek mythology. It actually started, as most things did, in the Middle East. And it started with Zoroastrianism. And Zoroastrianism is where you get those definitions that I use for earth, air, fire, and water. When we discuss and talk about that in tarot, we talk about how the definition of fire is action and divination and magic, and how it is the spark and passion, and it is every action that you make in your entire life that leads to building your personality and who you are and where your life takes you and what paths you go in life. That definition is not Celtic. It's a huge common misconception. A lot of people give that to the Celtics, and it was not. It actually started with Zoroastrianism in the Middle East, those specific definitions. Now, of course, different cultures and pagan practices around the entire world have been using earth, air, fire, and water in their practices for thousands of years. But the definitions that we use throughout Wicca and throughout common practices of divination, such as tarot and so on, came from Zoroastrianism. The same thing with earth, meaning all things that exist in the physical realm, all things you can touch, your clothes, your house, your money, your car. And, you know, same thing with the trees and the flowers, and having the definition of north, and having the definition surrounding sentient life, such as earth representing your children and your family. Those things all came from Zoroastrianism. Same thing with earth, air, fire, and water, and the directions that they are correlated to, being correlated to north, east, south, and west. That is also comes from Zoroastrianism. So when I say in my tarot classes that these definitions of the elements come from the Middle East, what I mean is that they came from Zoroastrianism, which started in the Middle East. So if you're into the elements and you're into ritualistic work surrounding the elements in the definitions that we typically give throughout neo-paganism in the US, you should look up Zoroastrianism and kind of see where it came from. It's a very, very ancient polytheistic pagan religion. And it's very cool. It's even associated with both monotheistic and polytheism, which is so interesting. Zoroastrianism is so cool because some sections and sects of Zoroastrianism are monotheistic and some of them are polytheistic. It's much like Christianity and Catholicism. Zoroastrianism has many, many, many different types. It is not just one basic religion. It has many, many, many different types. People branched off and started their own things, much like Christianity. That's how we got all of the different types of Christianity and Catholicism. And so, yeah, Zoroastrianism is very much the same. And yeah, it's very, very cool. They also use the same type of numerology that I teach, came from Zoroastrianism. Remember when during one of our Jinn classes where I had you guys all write poetry? A lot of the associations where you associate a number with a word or with a letter, that also came from Zoroastrianism and their way of practicing ritualistic numerology. That stems from Zoroastrianism. So yeah, maybe I should do a class on Zoroastrianism. Be cool, but I have too many classes and we can't even run all of those. So, but yeah, it's a very
I would like that if you did them.
I should. I think that'd be so cool. I love it. It's so much fun. A lot of people too who actually know what it is, if you mention it to them, they'll get scared. So have fun with that. A lot of people associate Zoroastrianism, including a lot of people from the Middle East, but a lot of people associate it with, it's kind of like if you were to tell somebody in the United States that you practice demonology. It'd be that would be the same thing as telling somebody from the entire continent of Asia or Africa that you practice Zoroastrianism. They would look at you like you study demons. So, yes.
Maybe I do, and I do it on purpose.
Same. So, exactly. So, does anybody have any questions or comments? What did you think of the video? Did any comments come to your mind? Any questions? Anything you want to say about what we just learned? Okay, cool. Well then, we are going to jump in to the more hands-on part of this class where we are all going to do some witchcraft. So please, I'm going to go back to actually, since I'm going to have you guys grab some stuff, let me actually do this instead. So while you
everyone,
guys
run to the store and go get a bottle of gin.
Yes, exactly. So while you guys go grab stuff, I will pull up the fun article and kind of have it up on the screen so people can read while we wait. And I try to make sure that for our rituals for these classes, because I don't tell you ahead of time, that the things that I ask you to grab are going to be things that you hopefully have in your house already. But if you do not, please feel free to ask me if you can substitute, because in my way of practicing witchcraft, and not all witches or all practitioners will agree with me, but the way that I practice is that there are no rules and no laws within paganism. And if you do not have a candle, if you do not have a candle, if you do not have a bowl of water, we can substitute things, just have something you can light on fire. Have something that you can put water in. And it doesn't have to be a sacred bowl. It doesn't have to be a chalice. It doesn't have to be a special candle with a special color and a special carving on it that was bought from a special store that you found in the middle of Lithuania. Okay, we don't have to do that. We can just use the things that we already have, because that's what pagans were doing thousands of years ago anyway. Nobody was going to a special witchcraft store to buy special witchcraft things. They were just finding sticks and rocks and dirt and fire. So, what you will need for the ritual that we are going to do is something that you can put water in. I'm going to say a bowl of water. but it can be a plastic cup from your kitchen. That is totally fine. It can be a chalice that you use on your altar. It can be absolutely anything, just a container that holds water. And if you would like, if you are somebody who's already a practitioner and you would like to use special water, please feel free to use special water. If you have moon water on hand, use your beautiful moon water. If you collected eclipse water from our most recent eclipse, please use that. If you just have tap water from your sink, that's fine too. Whatever kind of water you would like to put in whatever kind of water vessel you would like to put it in, please grab that. The second thing that you are going to need is a candle. Now, once again, like I said, this can be anything you light on fire. If you do not have access to a candle and you don't have a candle right now with you, you can use incense. Smoke is fine. Smoke counts for this ritual as fire, because the jinn come from both smoke and fire. So you can use incense. You can light some herbs on fire and put it in a tiny cauldron, if you have a tiny cauldron. Whatever you have to make fire, but be safe. And you are going to need something to write with and something to write on. If that is your phone, that's fine. If you would like to use your phone, if you would like to use your laptop, that's fine. Or if you have a special journal that you use for witchcraft, grab that. So 3 things: bowl of water, candle, and a pencil and paper. But, you know, substitute what you need. And then go grab that stuff and come back real quick. please put a thumbs up in the chat when you have all of your things. Awesome. We can go back to reading the article while we wait. Can you guys see the article?
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Almost everybody has their stuff. Don't forget to put a thumbs up in the chat when you are ready to get going. Awesome. Perfect. Sweet. Okay. Looks like everybody has all of their things. Okay. So we are going to stop screen sharing. Okay. So you are going to take the bowl of water and set it somewhere next to you where it will not spill. And of course, make sure that the candle is in a safe place because you will have your eyes closed. So Make sure the candle is in, a safe area where it will not burn down your house. And your stuff to write on can go wherever, obviously. Maybe not like right next to the fire. I don't know. But anyway, so now if you would like to, something that I like doing is turning on any type of music that helps you to meditate and to kind of if you are somebody who is still working on astral projection and you haven't really gotten to a place where you feel like you're having that out of body experience, where for right now you just kind of feel like it's a guided meditation, then I encourage you to try music. Sometimes music helps with kind of an out of body experience. Make sure you keep the volume really low so that you can still hear me. And also, I really like suggesting for this class, if you're just gonna, pick something random off of YouTube to listen to, or off of wherever, off of Spotify or off of wherever, try to find traditional Middle Eastern music and like Middle Eastern meditation music. Or if you have your own music that you prefer, that is completely fine too. But because we will be communicating and summoning the Jinn really, really like traditional Middle Eastern music. So it's always helpful to play that to kind of help with the summoning process. So make sure that you are in a comfy position, a place. You are welcome to lay down. You are welcome to just, sit up, whatever you would like to do, but make sure that you are comfy and can stay in the same position for, 20 minutes or so. And once you have picked out some meditation music, you have your water set next to you, you have your candle set next to you, the stuff that you need to write is somewhere that you can reach, then please, everybody, light your candle. After you have lit your candle, please take a moment and close your eyes and listen to the music. Listen to your breath. And we are going to take a moment for mindfulness to help with the process of astral projection. Because the point of these guided meditations is to help you get used to astral projection and traveling. Because as we get more advanced in some of these classes, which, by the way, what we are doing now is already considered slightly advanced, but we are really going to jump into transmutation circles and really actually attempting to astral project and to travel to different dimensions and to have true and real out-of-body experiences. And to aid and help us with that, we are going to start creating transmutation circles. So I encourage you to use these guided meditations that we have been doing to help yourself get ready for more intense astral projection rituals. So close your eyes. And take a moment to feel your body. What do the insides of your hands feel like? When closing your eyes and focusing on the insides of your hands, can you feel the blood running through your veins? Can you feel the heat radiating through your fingers? What do the insides of your hands feel like? Where are your hands placed? Are they comfortable? Are they in pain? Are they tingly? Relax your hands. Move up through your arms and feel the blood flowing through your wrists and elbows. What do the insides of your arms feel like? Are your arms comfortable? Are they strained in any way? Relax your arms and feel what the insides of your arms feel like. Move upwards towards your shoulders. Relax and release your shoulders. Move them away from your ears. Release the tension. Roll your shoulders back and forth. Move them around in circles and feel what the insides of your shoulders feel like. Are your shoulders squared and released? Are they moved away from your ears? Are your shoulders tight? Are your muscles tensed? What do your muscles and joints feel like on the inside? Move upwards towards your neck. Move your head back and forth and side to side and stretch your neck. What does your neck feel like? Does your head move around easily? Or does it cause pain when you move your head? Can you feel the blood running through your neck? What does your neck feel like on the inside? Move your attention upwards into your face, your head, and your hair. What do your hair follicles feel like on the inside? Is your face relaxed? Open and close your mouth and relax your jaw. Stick your tongue out and relax your tongue. Separate it from the roof of your mouth and let it sit comfortably. What does your jaw and your mouth and your tongue feel like? Think about your senses. What can you taste right now? What does your mouth taste like? What can you smell right now? What does the area and space that you're in smell like? What can you hear? When the sound waves coming from your space interact with your eardrum, what does it feel like to hear? What do you hear? And how does it feel to have waves interacting with your eardrums? Move to your eyes. What do the insides of your eyelids look like? What can you see when you close your eyes? Do you see patterns? Do you see blackness and darkness? What do your eyes feel like? Are they quivering and twitching, finding it difficult to stay closed? Are they relaxed and peaceful? Relax your face and cheeks and eyelids. Let them close naturally without forcing them tightly shut. Focusing on the senses. What can you feel? What are you touching? How does the fabric on your body feel? What do your clothes feel like touching your skin? How does the surface feel underneath your body as you are sitting or laying? Move your attention down towards your chest and stomach. What do your organs feel like inside of your body? Can you feel your lungs filling with air each time you breathe? What does it feel like to fill your lungs with air and release them? To breathe in and out. Can you feel the air going in and coming back out? Can you feel your heart beating? Try to feel your heart, your lungs, your stomach and organs. What do they feel like on the inside? Are you hungry? Are you full? What does it feel like? Pay attention to your body. As you slowly move your attention down into your legs and into your knees. How do your thighs and knees feel on the inside? Do your joints hurt? Are your legs fully relaxed? Is the position that you're sitting in putting pressure on your feet, on your knees and legs? Do your best to release that pressure. Relax your legs and feet. Focus on what your legs and feet feel like. without touching them, without feeling the ground underneath them. What do they feel like on the inside? Move and swirl your ankles around, move your toes and feet, and feel what they feel like. And through your mind's eye, imagine a portal that has appeared out of nowhere. Suddenly, as you connect with your entire body from head to toe, suddenly you envision a portal seen through the darkness, emerging out of nowhere and out of nothing. Since you have connected with your entire body, lift yourself up in your mind's eye and see yourself walking through the portal. You can no longer feel where you are sitting or where you are laying. Your body is no longer grounded and fully connected to this universe. You are somewhere in between. Imagine walking through the portal and into a different and new dimension. What does it feel like to walk through the portal? What does the portal look like? How do you feel stepping through? Look around at where you are. And as everything comes into view, and you start being able to see where you are and where you have entered, You notice that you are in the middle of a city unlike any city you have ever seen, filled with creatures you have never witnessed before in your life. What does the city smell like? What can you hear? What do you see? What does the air taste like? What does the air feel like on your skin? Tall and massive buildings surround you, and the creatures are speaking languages you don't understand. Walk forward, deeper into the city. And notice everything around you. The city is so large, with so many things happening and going on, that nobody seems to even notice that you are there. You're just another creature. The portal behind you disappears, and you are left alone in a giant city. Nothing looks like it comes from planet Earth. The plants around you, the trees, buildings, creatures, and pavement underneath your feet are all very alien. It's nothing like any place you have seen before. Take time to explore. You notice merchants and street vendors, people selling things that you have never seen, using currency that doesn't make sense. As you look above you into the sky is filled with moons and clouds that are unrecognizable, with colors and shapes that are unearthly. As you walk around the city, one building in particular calls to you. The colors of the building look inviting. The door to the building is wide open as different creatures enter and exit. The carvings on the building wall are not written in any earthly language. And you take a moment to look up and down the giant building before deciding to enter. You are pushed and shoved by so many creatures, all muttering in different languages, occupied by their own lives and the things that they have to get done. And you walk deeper into the building. You walk up to what looks to be like a front desk with somebody who works there standing behind it. Worried that they won't understand you. You don't know if you can ask for directions or ask what this building is or ask them anything. But you decide to approach the front desk anyway. The creature at the front desk greets you, and to your surprise, you understand what they have said. The person at the front desk tells you that this is the customer service building and that they can help you with anything you need. But you have no idea what you need. You have no idea where you are. The creature at the front desk laughs and offers to help you anyway. They let you know that this building is the transportation building. And this desk is the customer service desk for transportation. The creature asks you where you would like to go and what you would like to do. You stand for a moment, unsure of what you would like to do and where you would like to go. But after a moment of thinking, and after the creature tells you that you can go anywhere and you can do anything, you decide to ask them and let them know exactly where you would like to go and what you would like to do. The creature at the front desk smiles at you and hands you a key. This key will grant you access to any door that you would like to enter. The door that you choose will take you exactly where you would like to go and help you do exactly what you would like to do. You look down at the key It is a large golden key with multiple languages and writings inscribed all over the key. You touch it in your hands. It feels cold. And the inscriptions are carved into the key. As you run your fingers over it, you can feel the raised lettering. And as you run your finger over the key starts to giggle and laugh. You pull your hand away from the key, shocked that an inanimate object is laughing at you. The key lets you know that that tickles. And slowly the key morphs into a tiny Jinni sitting in the middle of your hand. The front desk creature lets you know that you may go now. There's a line behind you. So you leave the customer service desk and start looking at all of the doors. The building is saturated in doors. There are millions of doors to pick from. And the building seems to go up and up and up forever. There are so many staircases leading to so many levels that you can't see the top. You decide to take the staircase and pick the door that will lead you to where you would like to go and what you would like to do. And now that you have a small, key-sized Jinni in the middle of your hand, you decide to say hi. To your surprise, the Jinni is able to speak your language. And you two start to have a conversation as you go up and up the stairs, admiring every door on every floor. And you ask the Jinni how you're supposed to know which door will lead you to where you would like to go and what you would like to do. The Jinni informs you that no matter what door you choose, the door will lead you to exactly where you would like to go and what you would like to do. So you continue to explore. Each door is a different size and a different shape. Each door has different carvings on it and engravings. Some have jewels, diamonds, and gems bursting out of every crevice. Some of the doors are shining and glowing. Some of the doors talk. Some of the doors have faces and mouths and eyes. The Jinni explains that they are your guide, that whatever door you choose, they will lead you and help you find your way and help you get back and return to the customer service desk. Whenever you are ready to return to the customer service desk, you just let your Jinni know and they will bring you back safely. They're also there to talk and explore with you as you go on this adventure. You finally reach a floor and a door that speaks to you. It's the most beautiful door you have ever seen, and just looking at it makes you smile. You let the Jinni know that you have decided which door you would like to enter, and the Jinni transforms back into a key to let you unlock this door. You stick the Jinni inside the keyhole, turn the key, and walk through. Inside the door is exactly where you wanted to be. It is everything you ever imagined. You look around and take in the sights, the smells, the tastes, and the feeling of being in this magical, beautiful place. Through this door and inside this magical world is everything you needed right now in your life. Everything you've hoped for. It's a place that makes you feel safe, excited, happy. You can't wait to see everything inside of this world. It's almost as if it was made just for you. You begin to talk to the Jinni. As the Jinni asks you why this is where you picked, what would you like to do, asking you questions about why this is exactly what you needed and exactly where you wanted to be. And you share everything with the Jinni. You talk to them about why this is everything you've ever wanted, why you needed this so badly right now. You pick a place to sit so you can admire the world around you. And the Jinni asks you what you would like to do. And you know exactly what you would like to do. You explain to the Jinni that in the universe that you are from, it's not very often that you get to have and hold and be anywhere you would like to be. You get to have anything you would like to have. And the Jinni laughs and reminds you that you can come back here whenever you like. Inside this world is all of your favorite food, your favorite music, your favorite activities. It is every single thing you have ever wanted, and you decide to spend the entire day excitingly telling the Jinni about everything you've ever wanted, your hopes and your dreams, your favorite food and your favorite people, your favorite books, And looking around, the Jinni gets to experience all of your favorite things and the place that makes you feel happy, safe, like nothing bad could ever happen. You and the Jinni do everything that you want to do. You eat everything you would like to eat and drink everything you would like to drink. You wear all of the outfits you always wished you could wear, and you look the exact way in all of them that you always wished you could look like. You read your favorite books to the Jinni and experience all of your favorite things. It's your perfect world inside your perfect door. You let the Jinni know that you think it's time now. You're ready to go home and back to the customer service desk. But the Jinni has a surprise for you before you go back. The Jinni excitingly says that now that we're done, don't forget you can come back whenever you like. The door is always waiting. But before we leave, there's one special place the Jinni would like to take you. So you walk down this really beautiful path that leads you to a giant tree, the biggest, most beautiful tree you have ever seen. It seems to stretch all the way up into the sky. So high you can hardly see the tips of the branches. The Jinni knocks 4 times on the trunk of the tree. And a door appears on the trunk. The Jinni pushes the door open, and you walk into a giant, beautiful room filled with thousands of different types of Jinn, all celebrating and drinking and eating. There are banners hung on the walls and presents laid out on every table. You can smell the amazing, incredible food. It's laid out like a feast, with never-ending drinks and waterfalls that seem to stretch all the way up the trunk of the tree that fall down into a beautiful spring that the different jinn are swimming in. The jinni lets you know that one of their friends is celebrating something very special today. And one of their friends is celebrating their birthday. And the jinni wanted to invite you to the party. So you go and you sit down at the table and admire the wood inside this magical ancient tree. You have some drinks and talk to different jinn, listening to different stories that they have from all over the universe. Some of the jinn that you meet are thousands of years old, with epic, exciting tales about all of the adventures they've been on and the different time periods that they've witnessed on different planets throughout the universe, including Earth. You turn to the jinni in your hand and you ask whose birthday it is. What are you celebrating? And the jinni looks up at you and says that they have this very special friend named Robin. And it's their birthday today. And you wanted to be part of the celebration. The jinni lets you know that their friend Robin exists on Earth and gives you a present to give to them. After spending some time at the party, talking to all the different jinn, and celebrating Robin's birthday, you leave with the present, excited to come home to Earth and give it to Robin. You leave the giant door inside of the beautiful tree and say goodbye to everyone, letting the jinni know that it's time to go back to the customer service desk. And with a blink of an eye, you are back at the customer service desk, standing in front of the same creature who handed you the key and informed you of the doors. You give the key back to the customer service creature, and you leave the building, walking back through the city. And to your surprise, the portal is waiting for you. You take a deep breath and look one more time out at the beautiful city and the great adventure that you had, and step through the portal. You reunite with the universe you are from, and open your eyes. And when you are ready, when your eyes are open, and you can still remember everything that you did and everything you saw, while it's still fresh in your memory, take out what you are going to write with and what you are going to write on. And describe the door. Describe the city, the portal, the door, even if it's only a few sentences, even if it's a drawing. After you have written it down, so that you always remember exactly where you went and what you did, so you can always remember how to get back. Take the bowl of water. Hold it in your hands. And set it on top of what you have written. And inside the water, as you look deep into it, take one finger and swirl it around in the water clockwise. As you swirl your finger around in the water clockwise, placed on top of your writing, you will get a message from the Jinn, from the little Jinny that spent time with you on this journey. They will have a message for you. Because the Jinny always give back. And what they love most is getting knowledge from humans. Well, one of the things that they love most. They love many things, but one of the things that they love most is getting knowledge from humans and other entities that exist in other dimensions. And because you gave them the knowledge of your favorite place, your favorite things, your favorite people, your favorite books, and everything you love, they will give something back in return. Look into the water and see what it is. And also, for our very special person, whose birthday that it was, who we got to celebrate their birthday in a different dimension, tomorrow morning, walk outside. And when you walk outside your front door and you look on the ground or somewhere very, very close to your house, there will be a gift sitting out for you that the Jinny gave to you in thanks for being a very close friend. And when you're ready, after you're done and you receive your message from the Jinni, I would love to hear about all the things. What did the city look like? What door did you go through? Where did you go? What did you eat? What did you see? And what message did they give you? All the things, if you would like to share.
Yes, I can go first. Um, I felt, that's the wrong word. Rom doesn't know what they're saying. So the sprawling city that we went through at first, everyone was like hustle bustle. I almost, the best way I could describe it is I felt like I was in the same like city that was depicted in the Disney movie A Bug's Life.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Well, I heard hustle and bustle, and that's what I first imagined, or the first thing that came to my mind, I guess. And then when we got into like the receptionist room or building, and there was hundreds, millions of doors, all looking different. We got our key, we started walking upstairs. I walked up quite a few flights of stairs because I was confused that every single landing I went on gave me the same feel and like look and layout as the receptionist main lobby floor.
Whoa. That's so interesting. That's cool.
Finally I came to my door, which I couldn't, the color wasn't quite right, but for some reason I knew it was made of emerald. And it was the shape of a microphone. I don't know. I don't get it.
Sweet. That's so cool.
Entering it, I talked to the Jinni, showed him pictures of my friends, explained like our hobbies and like everything that we did together. And then we read through my favorite book, which is like a series of 6 books actually, and talked about how interesting it would be to live the life of somebody from that book, or be a character in it. So instead of leaving right away, I was there for about 5-6 years, because then we manifested ourselves into the world and lived a life of a character.
That is so amazing. What book is it?
It is a book from my childhood. It's the Warrior books, the fictional cat book.
Oh, sweet. That is so amazing.
Yeah, that was it was an interesting time.
What did your birthday party look like?
I, I I don't know. I felt like I was just there. Like it was like an out of body experience, and I couldn't process it. So I was just kind of awkwardly standing there.
That's cool. No, that's actually perfect. That's really cool. That means that you might have actually started to astral project, which is really, really neat. That's what it feels like when you're astral projecting, is that you're just kind of there, but you're not there. And so that's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know why. And then I had like the same problem like with the water and the message. It was just maybe I just don't know how to interpret it. But it was just like black, like floating dots in the water. Like like when you're like when a leaf lands on your pool and you could see it like the shadow of it on the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
That's all I could see in the water was like the shadow of things. There was
That
nothing
is
really there, no like strong message. It was just like a couple dots of shadows.
neat. Wow. That is so cool though. And yeah, sometimes the messages, you have to work on being able to interpret them and kind of figure out what they're saying. But honestly, just the fact that, you saw anything is amazing and incredible. And such it means it worked and your spell worked. And that's really, really cool. And don't forget to go outside tomorrow morning and there'll be a present. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Would well, I don't want to rush you guys. I know it's a process to write everything down and then do the thing with the water. I know. But if anybody else is done and would like to share, please go ahead whenever you're ready. Or you can totally just put into the chat that you would not like to share. That's fine too.
I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I fell asleep.
Oh, that is totally good. That's awesome.
And I woke up when like at like when it was over, but it's like I'm like
You want to know something funny? Me too.
I feel bad because it's like I wake up early and like 9 o'clock classes, like running late make me sleepy.
I fell asleep. I woke up as Robin was talking.
No, that's awesome. Actually, and honestly, I mean, yes, of course, there's just the fact that we run these classes pretty late. And I know I wake up at 5 o'clock a.m. for work. I totally understand. And so sometimes we're just tired. But also, falling asleep is like one of the best first steps to astral projection and to traveling, because when we're asleep, you enter a different form of consciousness. And so falling asleep is actually a great first step to traveling. And I'm sure that your subconscious was still listening to what I was saying and that you probably went on your own journey. You just might not remember it super well.
I do remember seeing a door made of citrine though.
Oh, that's awesome. Citrine is so beautiful. It's one of my favorite crystals.
Honestly, I think the only reason I didn't fall asleep, because I usually fall asleep during Alex's meditation, is because I was cooking.
Nice.
We need to start doing these sitting up.
But no, sleeping is totally fine. Tom, did you wake up in time to do the thing with the water or no?
No, I woke up when you basically telling everybody to write down what they experienced.
Nice. Hey, that's totally
I
cool.
mean, it pretty much was out for the entire meditation part of it. Like, you know, after, you know, like I remember going into through the portal and all that stuff, but when I was, you know, like not much beyond the portal, and that's early on.
Hey, that's totally fine. That means that yes, you did a form of astral projecting. And the fact that you woke up really, you know, that you woke up pretty much right at the end when I finished and told everybody kind of what to do. I think that shows, yeah, that you definitely were doing some form of traveling or at least getting into a different form of consciousness because you didn't just stay asleep. You woke up after.
No, and that's what I definitely know that I was listening still, but like, you know, like I really don't remember, which I'm glad because it, you know, the meditation did what it was supposed to do, relax me.
Exactly. So that's perfect.
I just wish I remembered what happened.
That's why sometimes, you know, like I'll have to go back to listen to the rest of the meditation just to see if it jogs my memory.
Yes, and you guys can always come back to it too and do the meditation again. One of the things that I mentioned while we were meditating is that this is, you know, a place that you can always come back to. And so when you can listen to the meditation again and you can always go back and do it on your, you know, on your own time, maybe during the day when you feel like maybe you won't fall asleep. But also falling asleep is great. Like I said, it is totally fine and wonderful to fall asleep because that is definitely a beautiful form of meditation. So Michelle, did you want to share anything? I wonder if Michelle fell asleep too. But you know what? This means I have a very calming voice. So that's cool.
Oh, yes, very.
Thank you. Awesome. Well,
I think she might have.
I think she might have too. That's awesome. I'm going to stop the recording real quick.